All right, fans, we are live once again with the Combatcast. We're going to talk about all the happenings that happened over the weekend with UFC 291, Spence versus Crawford. But before we do that, we're going to talk about these coming fights, and Chevy's going to tell us what we got coming up after today, too.
All right, August 12th, UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Dos Anjos. And then August 19th, we're back with a pay-per-view, 292, Sterling versus O'Malley from Boston. And then August 26th, UFC Fight Night, Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. I think that's in like Singapore or something. So that'll either be, I think that's like at 8 a.m. on the East Coast fight card. So looking forward to that.
That's going to be tremendous. All good fights, but I mean, this weekend's, like you said before, like Sandhagen Font, I know we'll talk about the first, like that became more of an interesting fight to me now.
Yeah, this entire card is kind of a sleeper card. There's no big names on it, but matchup-wise, it's a great card. But yeah, that new main event really sells it for me. But let's talk about the co-main first. Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez.
All right, Jessica Andrade, she's 24-11, 9 KOs, 8 subs, 7 decisions. So I mean, if you look at that, like she can win a decision, she can sub you, she can KO you. And this is a woman who has fought in basically all 3 women's weight classes here. I'm bantamweight, flyweight, and strawweight. You know, she wasn't a featherweight, but
that's not a real division anyway.
That's not, no. And you know, she's a former strawweight champion. She's had Performance of the Night 5 times. She's had Fight of the Night 4 times. She's a finisher. She's strong. This is a major step up for her opponent, Tatiana Suarez, who you know, was a strawweight winner on The Ultimate Fighter, and she's had a Performance of the Night. She's 9-0. This is a girl with great amateur background here. 2 KOs, 4 subs, 3 decisions. But this is a major step up. I do think, though, stylistically, she's a great matchup for Andrade. I'm going to pick her. I think she's going to get a decision. But this is definitely a step up. She could get caught. We're going to see. We very well could see what that chin's made of here.
Yeah, I said I pitied the fighter that had to fight Andrade next after her last 2 losses. But I'm not worried about Tatiana.
Different animal.
Yeah, if she's healthy, she's among the most skilled fighters in the division, for sure. Jessica's powerful, but Tatiana's wrestling is levels above everyone else in the flyweight division. So I think she's going to work on that, you know, avoid the big shots from Jessica. Gets her down. I think she gets her back in subs, or I'll say round 3.
Round 3, you think it's a sub? I was wondering. I'm going to go with decision, but you know, you do make a good point. I think she could very well tie out Andrade with the style of fight that she does too. So.
Yeah, frustrate her, I think. You know, Andrade will start feeling the urgency after being down on points, and she'll make a mistake trying to get up and give up her back, I think is what's going to happen. All right, let's talk about the main event. Super exciting main event now. Cory Sandhagen versus Rob Font.
Rob Font, 20-6, 9 KOs, 4 subs, 7 decisions, 10-5 in the UFC. He's had Fight of the Night twice, Performance of the Night 4 times. Cory Sandhagen, 16-4, 7 KOs, 3 subs, 6 decisions, 9-3 in the UFC. Fight of the Night twice, Performance of the Night twice. Very similar records, very similar performances of the night, bonuses, you know. If you look at that, you could say evenly matched. And I definitely feel like on the feet, Rob Font can hang with just about anybody. However, where this is going to, I think, favor Cory, I think, is just better all around. And that's not to say that Font isn't. I just think Cory's another level all around. Like, I think Rob Font is a top 5 fighter. But I think Cory Sandhagen is a few adjustments away from being potentially a championship fighter. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the difference. So, you know, no disrespect to either one, but I just feel like Sandhagen has more tools. And I think when it comes to that toolbox, he's going to get a submission. And I think it's going to be a little late because Font is a dog, as I like to say. And I'm going to say round 4, Cory Sandhagen gets it done. I'm going to say rear naked choke for some reason. Maybe a standing rear naked too.
Yeah, so obviously this is such a great matchup. I'm with you. They have similar abilities on the feet. So Rob looked fantastic against Adrian Yanez in his most recent fight. He had a little bit of struggle before that, but he looked great against Yanez, who is a up-and-coming prospect for sure. And Sandhagen just beat Yadong and Cheeto Vera. So two guys at the top of their game for sure. Rob, more technical in the boxing department, but Cory's longer. He's more creative on the feet also. And like you were saying, he's willing to mix in the wrestling and grappling. So I think that allows him to get a decision win. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets up on the scorecard like we're talking about with the last fight, gets up on the scorecard early. Rob has to put himself in danger, pushing for a finish. And then that'll allow Cory to set him up to walk into something explosive like a flying knee like he did with our boy Frankie Edgar or something like that. But I'm going to go with decision win for Cory.
Absolutely. So let's get into this past weekend's main card. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to go through the whole main card because it was that great. So let's get right into it. Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland.
Michael Chiesa, Kevin Holland. It was kind of what we said. I mean, at the end of the day, Chiesa tried to push that wrestling because it was really his only shot. But Holland kind of big brothered him at times. Holland was the stronger fighter. Maybe even the quicker fighter. And at the end of the day, you know, when it got to the ground, Holland was just as good, if not better, than Chiesa. So really, it was Chiesa's one chance was to get the takedown, which he could not really do successfully, and then try to really grind it out. But Holland was very capable. And it was interesting. He got that Darce, and I didn't know this, but we found out afterwards too. Chiesa almost kind of did himself in. He kind of called it and said that's his weakness. And Holland has a great Darce choke, and that is exactly what happened. I will let you take over here, but I will just say I always like to throw little fights after this too. I think as far as welterweights go, Kevin Holland and Neil Magny is a fight that's actually not happened yet. And I feel like they're pretty even ground, but I also think it'd be another win for Holland.
Yeah, he talked about going up to 185. I don't see the point of that other than he just doesn't want to cut weight.
Right.
He definitely seems more apt to, you know, work his way to a title at welterweight than he does at middleweight. But anyway, back to this Chiesa fight. Chiesa's just struggling for sure. His striking hasn't really improved since Tough. The game's kind of passing him by. He's great once he gets it to the ground, but his ability to get the takedown, fighters are just hip to it now. He shoots from really far out. He can't strike to get into range to go for takedowns. And part of the reason why he gets caught with all those darces is because when he dives in for these takedowns, he's reaching out, you know, he's shooting from so far away, he's reaching out, and, you know, it just leaves you super susceptible to get wrapped up there. So Kevin Holland, a black belt jiu-jitsu player. So even though you don't see him using it too much, he can wrap you up. So that's what he did to Chiesa. So I feel bad for Michael. Tough matchup for him too. If you're a wrestler, he used to fight at 155. Holland used to fight at 185. Tough to take down a guy like that, but I don't know what's next for Chiesa.
He's not.
Holland looks great.
Yeah. Maybe get a dietitian and see if you can get back down to 155 in a healthy way. He's very tall though, but that what I would think would be his best chance at causing some waves here.
Yeah, I thought when he moved up to 170, he was looking like a world beater initially, but these top level guys just have his number, so he's got to figure something out. All right, let's get into the next fight. Sad fight: Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green.
Yeah, sad if you're a Tony Ferguson fan and you're Tony, but I mean, I like Tony, but I also like Bobby Green, and this was a fun fight. Tony knocked him down in the first round, but then, you know, Bobby kind of felt like, to me, like he had the slight edge, but Tony felt like he was still there, I would say, up until maybe the third and maybe the end of the second. But then when that third happened and Bobby had him on the ground and he was going for that side choke. And I thought to myself, no way. But he did. Bobby Green tapped him out.
Only his second submission victory, by the way, I believe.
Yeah, incredible. So Bobby's on a roll. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Bobby's on a roll. Just to throw an opponent out for him, Matt Frivola. I think that's his name.
Steamroller Favola?
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting fight.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a fun one.
Only a few off
in the Matador sort of thing, I think.
Yeah, I think that could be good.
Yeah, that'd be a great matchup. Yeah, love Bobby Green too, but I think this fight more for me is about Tony Ferguson. I knew it was going to be sad, but it was extra sad that he got choked out. It just shows his decline for sure, because his jiu-jitsu game was levels above guys for a long time, and super creative ways similar to his striking. And you could tell even when he had Bobby in his guard, initially I'm like, this is dangerous territory for Bobby. But he couldn't land those elbows that he normally did to cut up opponents. He was flailing. He couldn't even trap Bobby's arm to go for an arm bar. Tony just doesn't have what he had before. He's just not the same fighter. Not to say he's not a great fighter, but he was arguably at one time the best lightweight in the world. He's just not that anymore. So I kind of hope the UFC, he's not going to retire. Here's the thing. He's not going to retire. It's going to be a BJ Penn situation where the UFC is going to have to cut him or just not sign him after his contract is up. But I hope they kind of force his hand. I hope they give him, I heard Brendan Schaub talking about this. I hope they give him one more fight, a good matchup, and they give him the Robbie Lawler treatment. He is a legend. He's done a lot for the company. I hope they give him a nice reel and a send-off. I don't think he'll take it as gracefully as Robbie because he'll be big forced out, but I think that's what he deserves. And I don't really want to see him fight anymore. So
he talked about talking with his team and talking about with Dana, and Bush said he wasn't done, but he talked about what's next, and hopefully they all will talk what's next, and maybe talk him into just maybe one last fight and see where we go from there. Because right now he could be a UFC Hall of Famer still with his credential. So I think that should be what's on the plate, and that's what they should talk to him about. Yeah.
All right, let's move on from super sad to super fucking happy. Derek Lewis versus Marcos Rodrigo de Lima.
All right, we're going to cover a few things here. Derek Lewis, that flying knee, he just hits straight out of the Masvidal playbook. It's tremendous, and he's going for broke immediately, and he gets it. And this is just classic Derek Lewis afterwards. He's taking off the shorts. He's doing the DX crotch chop. He's running around with the shorts. He's doing the dancing.
Throwing his cup into the crowd.
He's just having a blast, and it's fun. And it's funny because, but I'll let you get into more of the fight, but I want to talk about a few things here. It's funny because after this, me and you were both like, we found out this was his, final fight on his contract. And we're both like, oh, well, he's staying. UFC loves him. But then we realized that he has a win over Francis Ngannou, and the PFL might throw him. It's one of the most boring fights of all time. Neither one of them did nothing. But the more I think about it, I'm like, he could get a huge payday for that. And stylistically, he has a chance to beat Francis. And whereas if he stays in the UFC, he's probably going to get a lot of younger, hungrier guys that are coming up. And he'll have fun and he'll get paid. He can't really go wrong. He's going to do okay either way financially. But, man, if PFL can offer him a couple million for a Francis fight, I think I might take that as much as I would miss having the Black Beast around the UFC all the time. And we'll talk about this after we'll get your feelings for the fight. But this is right around the time the Spence Crawford fight was about to start, and we were about to watch that too. So but go ahead about this fight.
Yeah, so Black Beast comes out. He's thinking, I'm gonna throw this bullshit and see if it lands. He throws that flying knee that landed flush on Marcos' chin, puts him down, and he just sees an opportunity and ground and pound. Best in the business at ground and pound, Derek Lewis. So it was amazing, just indescribable joy. And, obviously he put on a show for the fans afterwards as well. So he's a hilarious guy. Like you were saying, he's going to get paid wherever he goes. PFL, good shout. I wouldn't be surprised if one championship tries to throw some money his way or something. But ultimately, I hope he signs with the UFC. I believe they've taken care of him in the past, even though they know he's probably not going to be champ just because, he holds the records for the most KOs. That's not somebody you want to let go to another, organization or whatever. And even if he's not going to be champion, even if you don't make him the main event, he doesn't want to fight 5 rounds. Let's be honest. So even if you don't make him the main event, he's still a draw no matter where he is on the card. The UFC has plenty of money, pay the man. But if he goes to PFL, I would love to see that matchup against Francis again for sure.
Yeah,
he has a possibility of maybe stealing a lot of Francis's hype that he has right now as well.
In a crazy world, this would require 2 huge upsets. But Nate Diaz wins this weekend, right? He beats Jake Paul. Nagano somehow upsets Tyson Fury too, and which is even less likely to happen. But let's say that happens. Nagano's got all this momentum. He ends up fighting Derek Lewis in an MMA fight because that's what they want to do next. They do Jake Paul and Nate on the same card. This would be even if this could be the biggest PFL card.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you would make this at any. Yeah, could be. No, it would be the biggest PFL. Yeah. So, if I'm PFL, I'm working overtime. I'm trying to get that done.
Yeah, for sure.
But go ahead.
Let's talk about Spence and Crawford a little bit since we were getting into it during this.
Yeah, so at this point, they're coming out. We have a second TV. We're watching this, and but Pereira and Jan is coming on next at the same time. So we're watching both these fights at the same time. And Jan and Pereira was an interesting fight, but I would say out of the main card was probably the weakest because there wasn't a finish, there wasn't anything going on. And Spence and Crawford, Crawford was putting on a clinic. It was unbelievable. This was boxing at its best, though. The intensity was there. It really made for a special night as guys that love combat sports. Our friend Scott was like, my ADHD is driving me crazy because we had both TVs going on. And again, and Pereira and Jan was not boring in a sense because Jan almost had Pereira's back. That's what I'm talking about.
Had that body triangle on him for a while.
But anyway, as far as the boxing went, Crawford put a clinic on. I believe it was a round 10. What's the finish?
9. It
was round 9. Round 9
he had a knockdown in round 2, I believe, and then 2 knockdowns in round 7. TKO finish round 9. And he maybe lost the first round and dominated every other round. It was the most impressive boxing performance I've ever seen. Because I expected this to be razor close. I picked Crawford to win, but I thought it would be, back and forth for sure. Crawford dominated. He showed, he's arguably the number 1 pound for pound boxer in the world. I'm excited to see what's next for him. Even if it's the rematch with Spence at the higher weight class, that would be good too. But anybody he fights, I want to see next.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, sorry, I got distracted here by a minute. I'm looking at something, but Pereira and Blachowicz was going on at the same time, and Pereira, I'll say this: a lot of people didn't think he necessarily won the fight, but it was close, and a lot of people tell you it wasn't a robbery too. I think it was very close. And really, just if you score ground time still, which is not, I think, is being as heavily influenced anymore on the scorecards. Sure, right. But What I really took away from this, though, too, is Bahara, who's now 8-2, did not get finished despite Jan having his back. That's impressive, especially when his next fight is probably going to be for the light heavyweight championship, and it's going to be against Prohaska or Jamal Hill, probably Prohaska, it looks like. And, like, those are going to be more favorable matchups with him, with guys who are probably going to try to strike with him, too.
Yuri did good on the ground with Glover, though. So, who is Alex's mentor, obviously. But yes, great improvement for Alex on the ground for sure. I thought he was going to get rolled up real easy, but vast improvement. He looked great. Good job defensively. I am very excited for the next matchup. Him and Yuri is a very exciting fight. If it takes place on the feet, Yuri is great on the feet, creative and stuff, but technically, Alex is much better, way more powerful. And if he can keep it standing, he has a chance to be light heavyweight champ.
He really does. I feel like he's got a better chance of beating one of those guys than he did Jan.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that he will, but I just feel like stylistically he has a better chance. So, again, maybe this wasn't the most exciting fight out of the main card where we had so many bangers, but this was still a very interesting outcome because this is the most interesting outcome, I think, and favorable outcome for the UFC.
Right, for sure. All right, let's talk about this main event. Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje for the BMF belt.
Incredible. Dustin Gaethje, second round head kick. And, of course, Dustin kind of blocks it a little bit, but it still comes through. And it's the exact same head kick in the exact same building that Leon Edwards hit on Usman. Usman, of course, being one of Gaethje's training partners. So it is very fascinating to me. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that, but that's fascinating because that means, we're putting ego aside and go, hey, that worked on me. Hey, why don't you see? He seems like he's susceptible for this too.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Just great. That makes me so impressed, like with the coaching and the teammate and the team he's got there. And other than that, too, Justin Gaethje, there is a level of dialed in that I feel like it's at another level right now that we hadn't seen before with him. He's always been chaotic, but he's been more controlled. But now he's looking even more controlled. This is the best Justin Gaethje's ever looked, and he's got to fight for the lightweight championship next. I'm sure, we're going to have Islam and Charles Oliveira, who deserves it, next. But he's got to be waiting and then getting the rematch. And if somebody falls off and Charles gets injured, then Justin's got to be the guy to get right in there. And, if I'm Volkanovski, then it's like, okay, we're definitely going to take another fight at featherweight. And he'll have to wait because he was looking like he was close to possibly getting in there too. But now after this performance, Gaethje has to be next in line after Charles.
Yeah, tremendous finish over a top level guy. Don't get it twisted. Dustin Poirier is still a top level guy. So, what a great matchup that was. Gaethje tailor-made for the BMF belt, or the BMF belt tailor-made for Justin Gaethje. Now that he's reined in that chaotic style a little bit and chooses when to explode, he just seems like he's on a path to the title, that can't be stopped at this point. So I agree with you. His focus, determination, he just seems to be on a different level. So bummer for Dustin. I picked Dustin, but Gaethje just looked that great. Who picked head kick knockout, by the way? I think I've seen Gaethje throw 2 head kicks before this fight ever. So maybe you should throw a little bit more, though, because those super powerful leg kicks, if he can land them on people's head, you can see it goes through the guard. So Poirier hasn't been finished since Michael Johnson finished him in like 2016 or 2017 or something like that. So very durable guy. So not sure what's next for Dustin. There's not too much left in the division for him to do. Maybe a trilogy with Gaethje at some point, but not next for sure. I'm looking for Gaethje to get that title shot, and I'm praying that he can get a title win. I want to see him hold the belt. I wanted to see whoever won this fight. I wanted to see them get and hold the belt.
Sure. Yeah. You know what's funny too, though? If Justin can pull it off somehow, Poirier could get a win over somebody and be right back in there. You could have the trilogy for the title. So
it's such a great division, lightweight.
Yeah.
Just fantastic division. It's very jammed up at the top, especially with Volkanovski trying to come up from featherweight and make his mark as well. But great division.
Yeah, DCR in the comments with the praying hands. I think he's hoping. We're all hoping that Justin Gaethje does get this title shot and does pull it off. Now, this weekend we do have a couple fights coming up.
Let's talk about some bullshit. Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. Let's get through this quickly. What do you got?
We got a favorite Jake Paul. Unfortunately, he has the edge. He's boxed more than we know. We know Nate has a boxing background, but Jake is bigger. And this is the kind of fight Jake likes to pick usually. MMA fighters who are a little older and that he's bigger than. Now, where this could backfire is I know they were talking about 10. Last I heard, now it is back to 8 rounds.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think they reconsidered that. But where this could backfire is if Jake does gas. Nate Diaz, unbelievable cardio, and you never know. But I will say this. If I had to bet with my wallet, unfortunately, I'd probably pick Jake just because he has the boxing experience. However, my heart is Nate Diaz all the way. I hope he knocks him out. I hope it's one of those things where maybe he just survives early and then takes him out in round 6 or 7 and flattens him. That's what I hope.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Nate Diaz fan, as I've said on this podcast before, but I'm definitely not the biggest Jake Paul fan either. So, interesting matchup. I know hitting pads means nothing at all, but Jake Paul has looked good hitting pads lately. Very powerful. He's definitely more powerful than Nate. Nate, super durable, but we'll see with those 16-ounce gloves if Jake can touch him up a little bit. But I agree with you. If it goes past like round 3 or whatever, that power is going to be zapped. And it's going to be a long night in the office for Jake Paul. He's going to get touched up and probably finish because the volume that Nate will put on him will be too much. That being said, this is assuming that Nate Diaz is taking this seriously at all. We haven't seen any promotion for the fight from him at all. He didn't give a shit about that Tony Ferguson fight when he was supposed to be coming in to fight the hardest fight of his life, Khamzat Chimaev. So if he just doesn't care anymore and he comes in looking like he did against Tony, he's going to get his ass whooped so bad. Twitter is going to explode with Nate Diaz army shit. So I'm hoping he comes in ready to go and he gets this bag from Jake Paul. So let's not talk about that anymore. Let's talk about some real shit. Bellator 298, Storley versus Ward. Brendan Ward is a local guy for us here at Working Fans. Friend of the show, Sean Shamrock, best friends with that guy. He is a welterweight contender, fighting Logan Storley, who only has lost to Yarnoslav, who I believe is the champion, the Ukrainian champion. He's only lost to him. But Brendan, since 2022, he's sort of, rearranged his life, gotten his life kind of together, looked like a completely different man, completely different fighter. 3 straight second round finishes for him. I, going to pick with my heart here. I think he keeps it going. I'm going to say
against Brendan. I won't pick against Brendan because he's local and Sean's been on the show before. So we're picking Brendan. And I guess I'll just say this too. I'm pulling for Brendan. I want him to win this, and this is a great opportunity. So good luck to Brendan Ward this weekend. And
probably gets a title shot if he can get another win here.
100%. 100%. All right, man. Why don't we tell people what we got coming up one more time?
All right. August 12th, UFC Fight Night, Vicente Luque versus Rafael dos Anjos. August 19th, UFC 292 from Boston. Sterling versus O'Malley for the bantamweight belt. And then August 26th, UFC Fight Night, Holloway versus the Korean Zombie.
All right, guys. It was a great weekend of fights. Look forward to this weekend of fights. Thanks for tuning in.